take it out and report it.
Okay. We are now.
No,
We will call meeting to order at 8:32. Special council meeting agenda for July 31st, 2024. Motion to accept the agenda as presented. Councilor Farrell, thank you. Any questions or concern about said agenda? No. For those of you who have checked in, we are going to go into a closed session to discuss the contract of the new CAO. We will be coming back live as soon as we can get out of that portion of the meeting. I do apologize. Thank you.
Now, Joanne?
Yeah. It was a good choice. Yeah.
Now, Joanne? Yeah, there was no one who was here, so.
There's 4 people watching online. There is 3 through the close portion. So
Okay, so moving on to the business item, CEO contract ratification, Mr. Nill. Just basically a motion to accept
Yeah,
it.
the motion that's there, I don't think there's anything, we reviewed the contents and of the contract, and council's comfortable with it, that motion is
Good.
there for you.
Okay, motion from Council Warwick, all in favor? Carried. And I guess the official part is the new CEO announcement will be that Matthew Norbert will be our new CEO effective the 3rd of September 2024.
We need a motion. on
Yeah.
that.
Motion from Councilor Cole. All in favor? And carried.
So, Mr. Mayor, the plan is, as you've seen, attached, we had a press release, so that's our goal, I believe, Lori, to have that out.
This afternoon.
Use this afternoon, and then we'll have some social media, and we'll see whether any of our media picks it up, but you're free and clear now to be able to let people know, speak about it, so.
It's been a interesting process with speculation and rumors and innuendo and so on and so forth, so. Okay, we'll adjourn that meeting, our first council meeting at 8:45 AM.
Okay, I'll go grab this, Mr. Mayor.
You betcha.
You can probably have a few minutes here to
Yeah.
like set up.
Yeah.
Hi,
Lori.
you've got a
Yeah, it's the only,
presentation.
only PowerPoint that's in the main folder
If
there.
you guys wanna grab a
Okay,
chair here.
thank you. Hi, everybody. Good to see you.
How are we today?
We're wonderful.
Wonderful. Now you're talking my language.
No.
You wanna put- That's. So we can't, like I said, we can pull these back. On the whiteboards, if that works.
Yeah, I think so. You guys can figure it out, sure. No, we were just saying, we've been on the road for a lot of the summer. And Hanna is my favorite place to come, first of all. I'm from a small
Good
town.
answer.
I'm from a small town, Minnedosa, Manitoba, which is
Yes, you
exactly-
are from a small town.
Exactly the same size. That's why I think I love it, yeah.
My wife and I went to a wedding in Minnedosa about, oh boy, 40 years ago now.
Not much has changed.
Yeah,
Not much has changed. But this is the first time we stayed overnight. Because normally it's the end of the tour and we want to get back to Edmonton as quickly as we can. That
You
kind of
want to
office is
get back
great.
to Edmonton?
I love that. It was the best hotel of the entire trip.
Oh, my
It
God.
was great.
Well, with all the, I guess most of their crews downtown, go home.
Right.
Or have their own trailers and such, so, yeah, they're kind of busy around, so,
Yeah,
yeah, they're very productive.
I know, right?
They've
That's
done
the
lots
tough
of that, so
thing.
they go involved, the community is not, they do
Yeah.
lots of them in the building.
Yeah, I love it. It's very good. They have a little courtyard in there too that
Yeah.
you can, my team, because we did an event last night here in town. Yeah. No.
What was the turnout like for that?
I was low. He's being a strong 4 or 5 people. Yeah, that's enough. We still had fun. It's okay. Okay, we had fun and we'll come back and do it again.
Yeah, I just think timing.
Yeah.
Like the people are on holiday at this time of year and
Yeah, no, next time we're looking at sometime in the fall or early spring when the roads are freed up. And we'll do a dinner instead, bring people together. Kind of a community event, we'll feed people and then we'll do it, that's what I'm saying. Right, we forget that sometimes. All right, it seems to be stretched over.
So because the presentation is in the 16:9, but our screen is not,
Okay,
so.
you know what we can do though? Can we go?
You can take
Sure,
the,
I think I can do it this way. And we'll just do reading via.
See, while they're getting set up here, we can call our meeting to order at 8:47. Motion to accept the agenda as presented, Councilor Bowden, all in favor?
I wonder if we reduce the
Carried.
size of it, if I would
Now we're ready for you.
talk to them.
Okay. Well, you can do it like this, I can just.
Should
zoom
ask if there's any public presentation.
There's nobody here. Unless you want to read something.
Sorry.
Council.
Let's try that. If that does that work? Sorry, everybody.
No, it's all
That was
good.
my last try. Okay. We'll do it that way. Okay, I can just do it this way. All right. So our team at the U of A has been coming to Hanna for the last 5 years. Hanna is one of 6 communities that we've been focusing on for our Common Ground project. The other ones include Fort Mac in the north, down in Lethbridge in the south, Edmonton, Calgary. Red Deer is on our list. We're going high level eventually. Forest fires keep preventing us from going up there. It was kind of a random selection. We needed a smaller community in this area. We needed a certain size. So it was perfect. Yeah, St. Paul is our other smallest community. Oh,
We live the lifestyle.
they have the lifestyle.
I always want to say because we're worth the drive.
Yeah, no, and as I say, I'm not just saying that to you. I don't tell the Lethbridge folks this, but it's my favorite place to come. So as part of our research is devoted to understanding the difference between who Albertans think they are as a community and who Albertans actually are when it comes to the demographics and their political attitudes. What we found is that there's actually quite a big gap. So this surprise faces I get are in St. Paul and Hanna when I tell people. We have asked over 500 Albertans to do a simple thing in our focus groups. We asked them to draw us an Alberta. Right.
I can draw a nasty stick man.
Right. And then most of them are stick figures. But what we found is over 80% of the 500 folks we worked with from the north all the way down to the south, east, west will draw a man, typically, right? Usually working in a blue collar job, right? Who's middle-aged and white. That's who they tend to draw.
Yeah.
What surprised us was that it doesn't matter where we go. We were in Lethbridge with a group of recent Nigerian immigrants, one of whom had only been in Alberta for 10 days, and he drew cowboy. Right. We've done several focus groups that were all women, and not a single one of them would draw a woman. Right. So this stereotype is actually quite powerful. So last night we were talking about who the stereotype is and how that affects our politics. And in part of that investigation, we found that this guy we actually asked the participants to name the Albertan that they drew, and the most common name is Joe. That Joe is actually a little bit of a polarizing figure in Alberta politics, because there's a small group of people out there that want to cancel Joe, that want to forget Joe. Joe is a bad thing, is bad for Alberta's image, and we need to move past Joe. Very small group of people. Another very small group of people on the other side that want to make Alberta all in Joe's image, right? Make Alberta great again, right? And turn back the clock to when Joe was, everybody was Joe, or everybody knew a Joe, right?
Joe was always the one interviewed.
Right, on TV, right? No, that's right. That's right. There's a Jeff Foxworthy joke about this. Yeah, yeah, that's right.
There are many.
Yeah, yeah,
But they always end up in the news and just like they do in Texas.
Yeah.
They use the same group of people.
Yeah.
So that the rest of the world can laugh,
yes.
but it's
It's not funny.
embarrassing.
And what we find through these engagements like last night, where we actually brought some improv actors into play Joe, is that Joe is actually far more complex than what a lot of people give him credit for. He's not the stereotype that everybody thinks he is. But that polarization between the group that wants to cancel Joe and the group that wants to hold Joe up on a pedestal are very small. Most Albertans are in the middle. They recognize that that Joe fulfills a really important place in our politics. But he's not the only, right? And we should be talking about other groups of people that are contributing to Alberta now and in the future. So in those discussions, we interacted with our friends at Alberta Municipalities. Rachel DeVos is the exec director there. And she said, what you're talking about in terms of this polarization is playing out at the local level. Because she's hearing from you folks and folks like you across the province that politics is becoming a bit more divisive, that discourse is being a little bit less civil, and that we should do something about that, right? And Hannah's not on our watch list of, we were going down a list with Michelle earlier about some other communities that are in a lot worse shape when it comes to this divisiveness. But it got us thinking about what we can do to support local politicians in particular, because as I'm about to show you, provincially and federally, political parties are both the problem and the solution to this polarization. But the local level, there for now, there's mostly an absence of political parties. So this is an important area to look at. So that's why we're here. We've been into a lot of places that I just listed doing these engagements as an effort to sorry.
No, you
There you
can take it away,
go. Yeah.
whatever works for you.
So, I mean, what we're trying to do here is not to say what is over the line when it comes to civil discourse or politics. We're not, as I tell my team all the time, we're not here to call balls and strikes when it comes to politics. I'm not here to say, well, that person's bad, that person's evil, that action was good or bad. What we're here to do is to arrange certain types of behaviors in politics on a spectrum. And this is what we'll be doing in just a moment, right? From what you folks consider to be democratically dangerous. Like if we continue to do some of these things, we're going to be in serious trouble marching ourselves down to something that is not democracy. The stuff that's perfectly politically acceptable, right? You see some of the things that we'll talk about here on your list that we as a team thought, in this politics as usual, right? But there's some things on this list that we feel might be leading us towards some pretty dangerous territory. So we're engaging with counselors and staff across the province to figure out just how common are these activities that you see, and where do you think they ought to be positioned, or in other words, where do you think we should be focusing our attention? Because there's some stuff over here that it's just politics, stuff over there that's anti-democratic. So we're going to ask for your help in a few minutes to go through this. The other thing I'll say too is that I met with Howard Anglin at the very beginning of this this process in 2019. Howard was the former principal secretary to Jason Kenney when he was premier. And Howard was joking with me, he goes, "You guys just trying to take the politics out of politics? Like, come on, there's got to be some fun, right?" And I said, "No, Howard, that's not what we're in the game to do." Because I firmly believe that some element of polarization is actually very healthy for democracy, right? It's important that we disagree. If we didn't disagree and we had no options on the ballot, that's not much of a democracy at all, right? So I'm going to show you some instances of what we call issue polarization, where Albertans are divided when it comes to their positions on things like pronouns in schools, or things like the carbon tax, or that sort of thing. We're not trying to stamp that out. We're also not here to say that ideological polarization into left and right groups is necessarily a bad thing. Again, disagreement is at the heart of democracy. What democracy is intended to do, though, as you'll see in a moment, is to prevent us from taking up arms against each other. I mean, democracy was invented as an alternative to violence. Unfortunately, these two types of polarization have melded with partisan polarization, the role of political parties, to form what political scientists call affective polarization. It's a fancy word for what you might know as tribalism. The division of different groups of society into tribes that are more concerned with their own well-being than the general public interest. Okay, and that's where we think we should start looking at this dividing line, between what's democratically acceptable and what's not. Right? So, yeah, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm Jared Wesley. I'm a political scientist at the University of Alberta. Yeah, I'm the lead of the Common Ground Initiative. I'm sorry. I was so excited to jump into it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Rodolfo Mendoza, and I'm in my second year of my PhD, and also in the yeah.
As you can see.
Yes. Thanks, Andrew. I'm sorry. I
was
got so excited.
To myself, really? Get to this.
We like to call-
Yeah.
And don't ask for-
No, that's okay. Yeah.
But yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, sorry. We're just so used to jumping in. Yeah.
You're passionate about what you do.
We are, because we think it's important. And actually, you can read a bit. It reminds me. Mayor Ken Johnston from Red Deer actually wrote a blog post or an op-ed in the Red Deer Advocate about some of the stuff we're talking about too. So that's why we're excited about it. All right. Yeah, no worries. So this may be a little bit hard to see here, but I'll explain it to you. We've been asking through our Viewpoint Alberta surveys for Albertans to arrange themselves on a left-right spectrum, 0 being the far left and 10 being the far right. My colleague, Janet Brown, who you may know, does provincial level polling. She calls this her middle finger graph. Because every time we do it, most groups of Albertans cluster near the middle. And it doesn't matter how you divide the population. You can see into men and women. Women are more likely to select 5 and men are more likely to be a little bit more distributed across, but it's a matter of degree and not kind. What's interesting to me is the top right one there, where we look at rural, which is the darker one, and then the lighter one, which is urban and suburban there. Thank you very much. Right? Which again shows you, thanks so much for that. That the stereotype of rural folks, again, I come from a rural community, being more right-wing is not borne out by this evidence. Now, it's important to know the center in Hanna is likely not the same as the center in Edmonton,
Oh, no, for sure.
right? But it's the tendency of people to place themselves in the middle that's most important. What we're getting at here is that Alberta society is not naturally or demographically polarized into 2 groups. If it were, you'd see 2 lumps, right? Not everybody clustering to the middle. We threw private versus public sector. We threw generations there as well. If we can go down a little bit. Whoops.
Not that far.
There we go. The only variable we can find that has people divided into 2 clusters here is party identification. So only when you add partisanship do Albertans tend to divide themselves into left and right. And while it's not shown here, because this is the graph that keeps me up at night, I don't want to keep you up at night. If I were to show you a graph from the United States in 2014, that's exactly what it looked like between Democrats and Republicans. This is on the eve of the rise of the Tea Party. And it's only become more polarized since then, resulting in what is actually violence, right? And January 6th, and then the recent assassination attempt on Donald Trump. So we're at a point, and it's important to remember this date. We're at a point where the United States was 10 years ago. And we have a choice to make about how we want our politics to go. And I haven't met many people that are wanting us to go down the road.
Talking about Alberta at that time?
Yes,
Mhm.
Yeah, this is Alberta only.
this is Alberta. This is just Alberta. Yeah. But again, it's important to note here, these are not what we would call natural forms of polarization. So I could show you like, Quebec in the 1960s, and you'd see Catholics and Protestants, right? Or you could
The
see,
language, I lived there.
right, or language,
The language stuff was really scary.
right? Or, white and non-white, right? These are not inherent characteristics. This is partisan, which means it can be fixed, right? If we have the right kind of partisan leaders that can bring people back together a bit, it's fixable. Again, party's not here. We'll get to that in just a moment. All right, we'll go to the next one if we can. Okay, there we go. Yeah, no worries. I'll zoom back out. And we find that partisan polarization happens across a bunch of different issues as well. So when it comes to the issue of whether kids who choose to use different pronouns should have their parents told by teachers, right? That's the new policy package that's coming in the fall from the provincial government. You can see that New Democrats are more likely to oppose that, and United Conservatives are more likely to support that, right? Same thing with a carbon tax. United Conservatives, not surprisingly, opposed to it. New Democrats a little bit more across the board, but more likely to support a carbon tax. Maintaining the number of safe consumption sites, again, United Conservatives more likely to oppose. They want fewer consumption sites, New Democrats. And then same thing with shifting police resources away from policing towards community supports for people in need. Yeah.
Is that not, like, if you were to have done that 10 years ago, before we're in a, like, federal politics has huge impact on that.
The best predictor of whether you're going to see polarization is provincial level identification, not federal.
But a lot of that, it has been because of what has been done through the federal and different ministers, parties, and all sort of, you know, so
Yeah.
it's, you know, all the garbage and all of that.
Could be. I think what throws it out of whack in Alberta is that most Albertans identify as Conservative Party of Canada supporters. But what's interesting here is it's a 50-50 split at the provincial level. So there's a lot of what we call Nancy conservatives walking around. Right? Yeah.
More conservative.
A bit of a myth though, right? So that's actually, there's a bit of a myth there, because if you take a look at the popular vote breakdowns, there's a lot of conservatives in Alberta. I mean, the low water mark for conservative vote in Alberta in federal elections is like 45%. Right. And in Calgary, Progressive Party. Yeah. So I think we tend to exaggerate the differences at the federal level, but we can see it's clearly borne out at the provincial level. Yeah.
So are you saying that's applicable now? This charting would be
This is like-
relevant now,
This is
not a year ago, not. 6
these,
months
I think
ago?
this poll was from January of this year. Yeah. And we've got another poll in the field right now. As
I
I
remember this poll, because I do polling.
Yeah.
I'm on that list.
Oh, you're on it. Oh, good. Yeah.
I do 100 polls
Oh, yeah.
a week.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully you enjoy our survey. It's getting shorter and shorter to be more enjoyable, but yeah. This is current. And again, what I'm saying is, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. We should have disagreements over public policy, right? But where we get into trouble is when that polarization that's happening over issues and ideas starts to morph into what we would call tribalism or factionalism, where you value the interests and priorities of your smaller group at the expense of the broader society. So Michael Ignatieff, after he ran federally, went back to Harvard, was looking around at what he saw in the United States in 2013. Again, this is the same time that I talked about that earlier, Kraft. And he wrote about what he was concerned about there, which was that Americans were starting to treat their opponents as enemies, to be vanquished, be removed from the political sphere, sometimes by violence, but other times just by cancellation, right? Versus treating them as adversaries that should be defeated at the ballot box. But at the end of the day, we're all Americans and we should all get along and we can all go for a beer. And we might even have some legislation that is bipartisan, right? This was the beginning of the end of bipartisanship in the United States, right? So you can see the two different worlds that he was crafting, right?
So what?
Yeah.
What triggered this? Because, you know, I'll use the Americans as an example. They are very proud of the flag. They're very proud of what they are. But in the last, I'm going to say probably 15 to 20 years, it's not so much the flag anymore. It's like there's a serious divisiveness between Republicans and Democrats, and it's scary actually what's happening. And we're getting there now in Canada as well. And I don't know, is there an event that?
No, I wouldn't say it was an event, but I think if we were to replicate that earlier study I talked about here in the United States, I think what you find is that Republicans and Democrats look at what it means to be an American very differently.
Okay, that's fair.
Right?
That's all it is.
And where it becomes problematic is when they don't try to find the common ground between those two visions, but rather they look to replace each other entirely, right? And the American system is just not built that way. So that's what I would say. The other slow moving trend has been globalization, right? Where in the United States, not unlike Canada, we've seen a shift away from an industrial economy. And I'm in Hanna. I know you folks know this firsthand, right? Livelihoods that were here just a decade ago are not here anymore for a variety of different reasons. Some of them due to government regulation, some of them due to the shifting environment and everything else, right? And what that results is in a group of people who have been ignored by parties on both sides, right? And they feel what a lot of scholars say, they feel like they're being left behind. They feel like they're falling behind expectations of where they thought they'd be in their lives right now, compared to where their parents were, compared to their peers, compared to people in the rest of the world. So we have a group of people that feel like they're falling behind and nobody seems to be paying attention, right? And folks like Donald Trump have managed to appeal to that group of people and make them feel like they are, and one of my colleagues calls this, they're restoring honor to folks whose livelihoods and way of life have now been denigrated, right? Within a generation, we've seen blue collar positions, could be coal mining, could be manufacturing in North America and Europe, go from being like a prized, honorable profession to one where folks that are in that profession now feel like they are being dishonored and denigrated and being told that they are the problem. Does this resonate with people? And as a result, we have two parties in the United States for a very long time that were just ignoring this. They were both on the globalization train. They wanted free trade. They wanted open borders, right? And there was a consensus around that. Now we've had this collision with Donald Trump and the Republicans saying we're going to stand up for it. Now, we can debate whether he's got policies that will actually help. But that's where, so that would be my best answer to your question if I didn't have 40 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's, yeah.
Okay. And we see an element of that here in Alberta, but we, so what Ignatieff is warning us against is turning our politics into an enemy style battle, right? Using warlike metaphors, right? Turning differences of opinion into differences of conviction and identity. So identity-based politics is very polarized compared to idea-based politics, right? I'll just close with the Waldrop quote here, but effective polarization or tribalism we're talking about here is about anger, it's about distrust, resentment, tribal identity, and mutual loathing. Haven't met many people that want our politics to look like that. Okay. What's a little bit more disturbing, we asked this question, I still tell my team, I don't know why we asked this one because it keeps me up at night. We asked New Democrat identifiers in Alberta how they feel about United Conservatives. Only 7% said they'd be comfortable with a UCPer marrying into their immediate family. Only 13% more said they would be comfortable with having a UCPer as their friend. Right? And when I show this to my United Conservative friends, they go, oh, look, we're ahead. We're more accepting. I said, first of all, that initial reaction is part of the problem because these are not good numbers on your side either.
Not a race. Yeah.
It's not a race here. But again, to draw parallels with the United States, these types of questions used to be asked, they still are asked, of white folks about how comfortable they feel about people of color moving in next door. These numbers are worse than that, than race divisions in the United States, and those are pretty deep. So this affective polarization is now bleeding from politics into our personal lives. And I think that the pandemic really only accelerated that, right? So this was from January of last year. I'm afraid to ask the question again, but we will. Hopefully we see those numbers improving. Then we ask questions like this, like violence is sometimes an acceptable way to express disagreement with the government. 16% of Albertans agree with that statement. I have to remind you again, or I lose my political scientist license here. Democracy is an alternative to violence. These cannot coexist in the same system. Right? The next one, sometimes people need to use force to take back their democracies. Over a third of Albertans agree with that statement.
Do you feel like that's become more prevalent in the last few years than ever before?
I have no baseline data. I have to think that folks are looking at what's happening in the United States and going either siding with the notion that sometimes force is good, or sometimes they may feel like they need to push back with force, meet force with force. I don't know. Here too.
Women have to reflect in the United States.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because you hear it more, and I don't know, sometimes it's because I'm getting older and more conscious of those things, but we hear it more and more, so now.
So I agree to a point, but when we asked on the 1 year anniversary, we tracked attitudes towards the convoy all the way through to a year out. And we found consistently about 25% of Albertans supported the convoy, at least somewhat, in its opposition to the government, right? The federal government in particular. So that's a quarter. There's still another extra 10% here that we have got unaccounted for. So this isn't just folks that would have been supportive of the folks who took up arms in Boots. By the way, that number is down about 10% in Alberta. So we give them specific examples, and Albertans would say, we don't want that. So something's going on here, and it's one of the reasons why we are here. And one of the reasons why we paired with Alberta municipalities over the last year to build what we're calling a common ground toolkit, or an anti-factionalism toolkit, that will allow everyday citizens, politicians, staffers, journalists to identify red flags. What is democratically dangerous? But also to separate the wheat from the chaff here a bit, right? So, I mean, we hear it like, stop being so divisive, right? We hear that all the time. Stop being so divisive. I'm having a policy discussion with you. It's going to be divisive. There's some stuff over here that we really shouldn't be worried about, and we should actually hold up as being good and positive for democracy, right? So we've been visiting around to all the communities that you see there this summer, and then this fall, the day after the US election, we will be releasing this series of online resources that are built on what we're talking about here today. Okay, so it'll be a series of really short videos, really short infographics that people will be able to see to help diagnose and then hopefully address some of the issues we're talking about. So in front of you, you've got this placemat. Apologies for the small lettering. It didn't start out that way, but as we go around the province, folks keep adding more and more ideas to it. So that's why it's getting smaller. So we're going to talk about some of these things and where you would position them again on this quadrant, from things you see all the time. So you'd position that up, things you don't see all that often, things you see are really democratically dangerous, and things that you think are politics as usual. Okay. We've given you some of the definitions there as well. Once we've compiled that sense of what we really need to focus on, our team will start pulling together some resources to help people who feel safe enough to do so to actually start addressing it. So we started writing about some of this stuff about how if you encounter somebody in your family, in your neighborhood, at the doorstep that you disagree with, how do you have a civil conversation about it, right? So we've started writing some things in Alberta Views. We started talking about how this type of conversation is particularly toxic online. And we started naming and identifying things like rage farming. What is rage farming versus just simply stating your opinion, right? And this isn't easy stuff to do, but it's based on conversations that we're about to have with folks like you. So I'll leave it there. Were there any questions to that point?
Do you mind just interrupting us?
Yeah, no,
Up
please
here.
do. Yeah.
Halfway through the presentation.
You're fine.
No, we're done. I'm done with the formal presentation. So this is the time where we want to hear from you. So are there any questions on any of that to this point? Yeah.
So I love this.
Okay.
The downside is, no matter what our conversation is, the person that we're dealing with who says things like this and acts this way, we have presenters who come in.
Yep.
For council chambers who throw out the woke crap on a regular basis, and anyone who's, we It can't be like that. 35% of the population of Alberta at least are people of color.
Mhm.
How do you act like they don't exist or they're not worthy?
Right.
But the minute you use words
Yeah.
that could be a conversation, phew, the walls go up from that person who has been indoctrinated
Yeah.
into the hate.
Yeah.
I just don't know. From my perspective, I've almost given up.
Yeah, and we hear that all the time. I get it in my line of work too. So the first thing to note is that group of people is very small. They're very vocal, and you hear from them all the time. Politicians hear from these folks all the time. But you have to remember they're only a small group of people. Second thing is, I don't think they're going to be accessing our toolkit. Okay,
Right.
so
Right. Yeah.
right, but and it's a good point. But when we started this work, that's where we were going. We are like, okay, well, this will be helpful for us to go, oh, that's clearly unacceptable, and I'm going to lecture you about why it's unacceptable, and you're going to change your mind. But what we realized as we were going through here is we started looking through our own social media accounts, and we go, wait a minute, we're doing some of this stuff. Right. So the people that are going to be interested enough in changing the culture to be more civil are the folks that are going to be self-correcting using some of this stuff, right? But more than that, this is about stopping the type of democratically dangerous activities from becoming normalized. Because that is one of the biggest problems in the United States, is where now it has become politically and socially acceptable to show up and throw gravel at a local politician. In some Ontario ridings, spitting on your MP has become a sport.
So
We want to use this tool to remind folks that there's stuff that is clearly beyond the pale. You should not accept that, right? And the more people that I think realize that, the more they'll start to push back. So I don't think it's our job to talk to virtual strangers about changing their behavior, but there are people in their lives that could probably talk to them about it. And I've had that happen personally during the pandemic. To my wife, who's a public health nurse, and my cousin, who literally took ivermectin to address COVID. I mean, that's polarized. If I can have them get together for coffee using some of the techniques that we talked about here, there's hope, right? And I wasn't putting my political scientist hat on. I was using very similar tools of leaps. So that's the way I'd respond to it. This isn't about fixing those people. This is about switching the culture. Yeah.
That is what democracy is about. And there's nothing wrong with finding the common ground. We have a lot of that here. And you know what? We don't have to be enemies.
No.
We might not be best friends. But I can accept your difference and you can accept mine. If this is my choice, that's your choice.
Yes.
And that's the same with the people that come here. I'm totally okay with it. I think that's what makes it, it gives us the freedoms that we have built in this country. And I would never want to squelch that.
Mhm.
I think people need to have the freedom of voice. Not to insult, not to abuse, but we can have those freedoms to speak out what we believe and what you believe, even though it's not the same thing, it's okay.
Yes.
But there's no attack.
Mhm.
And the lies and stories and all this other stuff, and they have no idea who we are. They're like an accusation that we are doing such and such that we're smart. And those accusations are like we're basing our information on the side from other people that are trying to create negativity.
Right.
That's what
I hear you.
The challenge I find with some of the accusations with statements, and there's no accountability. But yet we're accountable as a council. That's the struggle that I have at times. I mean, everyone's entitled to an opinion and that's fine, but when they're held to account, well, they're not municipal government, so there's no accountability on that side of it. That's the challenge, and that's my biggest challenge.
they can say whatever they want.
Yeah.
Right.
And because we're kind of people accuse us of anything.
Yeah.
And not even know this is right. Well, really have to decipher that something for that individual thing.
It has. but again, what's changed, I think the pandemic is probably a good dividing line historically on this. It's become more socially and politically acceptable to do stuff that's more on that end of the scale, right? Okay, where did Roberto go? Okay, okay, so we have some things on your list here. The next part of our conversation is about where you would place these various activities in these quadrants here. So as you read through the list, we've got them on pages back there, and we've got some tape. So we'll bring the tape over to this side of the room. What I want you to do is to take one or two of these terms that resonate with you, that you feel like you're familiar enough with, you know what it means. Well, all we're asking you to do is to take one or two of them and then position them up here somewhere from democratically dangerous, like you said, to politically acceptable. And then how commonly do you see it in your work as counselors? So commonly you place a position up here, and commonly at the bottom. Is that okay? Does that make sense? Okay, so have a look at the list, and then the terms are just on behind you on the table there. Just grab one or two, and then we'll help you position them up here.
Mayor speaks ready to roll.
There you go. And I should ask for permission. Do you folks mind if I just, we're not gonna know who said what. I just need to record the conversation just so that we make sure we capture what we're doing in the ultimate.
It's being live streamed
Perfect. Is there a recording being made of it?
on YouTube.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, well then I don't need to do that.
I just.
You can.
We'll just take it
You
from
can.
YouTube if it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, thank you. I swear.
I was so panicked, my hand rang and I thought maybe you could shut it off.
Yeah. Yeah.
We should boycott that campaign. They could have posted something out and then it's not really correct.
No, for sure. We're just using examples. We could have given an example on the left and the right. So if you look down at the examples, we tried to balance it that way, but it could be that
Oh,
the
yeah.
cafe hosted a pride event. So let's boycott. Yeah. Yeah.
Things that never get caught.
That's like an easy one.
Yeah.
Can you go back and check in that link on my phone? I think I
Sure.
will. Seriously.
The nakedness without a phone.
I know. Right? Okay, and then once we have everybody who's taken one or two, I'm gonna ask you to have a look at the board and tell me whether you agree with where everything has been placed. Because we'll have a discussion about that. Wallet goes in the right, phone goes in the left. So when I'm looking for my phone, do I look in the right?
And you
I
tap,
don't.
and it's.
It's there.
I was gonna call you.
Sorry. All right. It's time to go home. All right. So they were saying this is going to YouTube, so we'll be recording there. So we'll just pull it up. Oh, that's good. That's good. If you have a video. I forgot. Honestly.
This is hard.
It's okay. We're gonna have a discussion.
Everything goes on this time.
Well, it's interesting because in some cities and towns that we've gone to, everybody clusters to this side and sometimes it's all over there. So you tell me.
Whatever your
Yeah.
perception is.
Yeah.
Councilor.
Yeah. Can I share this map? You gotta put it, you don't wanna see it anymore, or you wanna put it at both ends, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Commonly happens.
If it's up here, up here, it's common. None. Pretty common. Okay. It's up. Good job. No, we'll talk about it. No, I should have said that. There's no right or wrong answers here. Yeah. Yeah.
So do they all have to be set up?
If they don't resonate with anybody, we can leave them there. I can ask you about them. Okay. Okay. Now, are we okay going till a
Yeah,
quarter to?
Yeah,
Okay.
take.
Yeah, this is good.
Okay.
I almost feel
As you
like.
look up there, you've got the definitions in front of you too. Is there anything up there that you don't think belongs there? We'll get Bert to take a picture of it before we start moving it down. We'll move them in just a second. So you're gonna take a picture? You got one? Okay.
Put it up. You can change it.
All right.
Chicken. I don't care. What about these things? Some of these things that go.
Oh, but it's.
Let's have them too. You can get a shot. All right. All right. So as we look up here, I'll tilt this in so people can see it too, right? Is that good?
Yeah. that's
Okay.
good.
All right. Is there anything up here that you would disagree where we've placed it? Do I have to put up the slide about agreeing without being disagreeable? We can disagree. We can disagree here.
How much debate do you want to have?
We can have some discussion. Which one that really sticks out for you? That's not in the right spot. Right?
Gaslighting being politically acceptable.
Gaslighting being
That
politically
was
acceptable.
kind of, yeah,
Okay.
it's interesting.
Who placed it over there? You did.
Why do we have to?
You don't have to. I'm interested in
Maybe
the
there's
reason.
reasons I.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm asking for. Yeah, what's the reason?
What is the reason?
Yeah.
We can have some conversation about it. Debate it.
Because when we were in Calgary, it got placed over there too. So this isn't a unique placement.
I think it's creating, discussion. Not tripping when I'm into building on top.
That's what gaslighting means though. That's what I'm saying. It's tricking and
It's manipulating.
politics is.
Well, and that
Politics
can
is
happen
not
politically. From either way, politically, we could be trying to, change people's thoughts or intentions or whatever. Tricking them.
Yeah, that's what every single debate and discussion is manipulation.
Yeah.
So it is,
It really is.
I don't disagree with you. I think where gaslighting is a bit different is it's not persuasion, but it's manipulating people into doubting their own reality.
Or somebody from the other side trying to do the same thing
To you.
to the political individuals that,
Yeah.
that are representing.
Yeah.
So.
I think it happens.
So it's common.
Yeah.
Okay. But my question to you, because it can be common, but you can think it's also dangerous. Or you can think it's common and it's perfectly acceptable.
I guess it depends on what the idea is. If it's a dangerous, topic. Or result, or whatever, then it could be dangerous, but we don't really know. That. It could be anything, whether it's dangerous or whether it's, trying to get other people to see their point of view.
Right.
To maybe support somebody that is, doesn't have a voice or something along that line.
It could be well intentioned.
It could be narrow.
Okay. Sometimes it can be.
And we'll talk about what's real and what's not real. Sometimes do we really know?
Right.
I mean, do we really know what's always real?
Right.
And, or do they in fact know what's always real? So I feel like there's some, there's some uncommon ground between realities too, so.
mean, sometimes when we talk about this in other towns, you're shaking your head, I'm gonna come back to you. But conspiracy theories also kind of fit in this area too, right? But to your point,
But
sometimes it can
conspiracy
be
is a whole
difficult
nother
to.
thing too. What you think is conspiracy may not be a conspiracy. We're identifying it as conspiracy, which may in fact, you don't know all the facts and some of the science and all the stuff behind it, which is in fact not a conspiracy either. And I notice a lot gets identified as conspiracy because people really don't have an understanding. They don't know the depth, they don't have the information of what conspiracy, what is actually conspiracy.
But it's interesting. when
Sorry,
you-
go ahead.
I'm just, that's exactly, that's exactly what we're talking about. It's saying that the greater good, well, they don't know. I know, so they're wrong. Excuse me, allergies. But gaslighting is a terrible thing to do. And whether the presenter's doing it or we're doing it, it's your integrity. And the minute you start gaslighting people, you have no integrity because you are tricking.
Yeah.
So the lights aren't on, what are you talking
Yeah.
about? No, the lights are on, and dismissing that person completely. And it's devaluing that individual by gaslighting. It's a very strong form of abuse. It should not be politically acceptable.
Okay.
Period.
Yeah, I think, and what you're getting at, I think, is the more common understanding of gaslighting is deliberately misleading people.
Yeah.
Right? It's not saying that there are multiple realities out there and we can debate whether one is accurate or what's not. It's recognizing that there is a reality, but I'm creating a false reality.
But the interesting about reality is its perception. You can go online and find something that says this and go online on the exact same topic and it suits your needs. And that's where the interesting thing and with COVID vaccinations, we can use virtually anything. And if you find something that supports your beliefs, then that's what's right. And if you find something that doesn't support your beliefs, then it's wrong. And if you dig deep enough, you can find something that eating bologna on Tuesday is bad for you.
Right.
It depends on what your background is and what your education is and what your experience and everything else is. Versus somebody that may have not experienced the same thing, that they may be identifying it as tricking somebody when really it's not.
Fair enough.
I don't know, sorry, I don't know, I might have missed some of the conversation. I don't know if anybody who has, I guess my perception, anybody who's been here to present to us or talk to council is trying to trick us.
No, but the information they're coming, the accusations.
I think they strongly believe
Opinion.
what they're bringing forward, that it's true and in fact, and it's right. I don't think their intention is, I know it's wrong, but I'm gonna trick them into believing.
They
No.
themselves may have been gaslighted.
This is what the folks in Red Deer said. They said, we don't have a problem with people trying to gaslight us. We have a problem with people coming in pre-gaslit.
Yeah.
That's the terminology they use. Yeah, okay. We don't have to agree here, folks. We're like this, we don't have to come to consensus. Do we want to move this? Or do we want to leave it?
Well, we probably couldn't do it. We probably not good.
Okay, do we want to, okay, so you remember the Price is Right game? With the yodeler? So they play music and then you tell me when to stop. I will not yodel for you, but I'm gonna move it over. What, somebody's gonna do it for me.
Roberto's gonna yodel.
Roberto's gonna yodel. I'm gonna move it this way, and then I want people to stick up their hand when you want me to stop it.
I think it's common.
It's common, okay? I'm moving this way. Tell me when you want me to stop.
Right.
Right there,
I
down a bit.
Is that common? I don't, well, maybe it's not, I common as it.
I think people, I don't think people, I mean, if we're looking, I think what Mr. Neal just said, I would reiterate that, and say that, people strongly believe in what they're advocating for. it's not that, yeah.
They believe it, yeah.
They believe it.
Okay.
But, and there, a lot of times you're doing it without information.
Right.
Anyways, that's, yeah.
Do I keep going or do I stop right there? Keep going?
No,
A little more?
Gonna say there.
You stop Googling, yeah,
Down,
right there,
down,
down here,
Sure.
there, okay, I'm seeing a lot of knots, we'll leave it there. Okay. All right, any other one that you don't agree belongs where we put it? Everything else looks like it belongs there. I should get out of the way, it's more over here, we got abusive speech. False dichotomy, dehumanization, cancel culture, virtue signaling.
so just a question for those who posted, by Jared here. So it's around democratically dangerous, are they posted in terms of whether they're common or uncommon?
These are not common. You haven't seen anything that are really common.
So is that,
Well,
so
I
is
didn't
the,
understand, I had to put on the upper lower. I was looking
so
at
that
it
was my only
and
concern, so do you think those ones at the bottom are uncommon, that's fine. If you thought they were more common, I didn't know if they'd been placed.
I didn't understand
Okay,
that.
no
So it
problem.
had to be upper level common, lower level uncommon.
Are any of these more common than others? We'll put it that way.
Probably.
Use of speech is up
Yeah.
here. Is it even more common for you?
Well, if you're talking, we're talking our personal, not.
Yes, the way you face it in your role. Yeah. So should you go up? You face this more often? No? Where do you face it? Is it online? Is it in person?
She's terrible.
Oh, it's in the room. We may need to pause the live stream. No, just kidding.
Yeah, just so you all know this is public.
Maybe it's not the most friendly interaction on social media, but it's the thing, I don't
Yeah.
feel abusive very often.
Okay. So it's okay there?
Yeah.
In the middle?
Yeah.
Okay, any other ones here that are more common than what you put? I'll ask this question, virtue signaling, that's democratically dangerous? That's chipping away at our values.
I find that it is, because, some of the stuff that's being posted, isn't always followed up with regulation or whatever, so. And if it isn't, then, you got one side against the other side, if you want to try to keep them in the middle.
It's not contributing to that common.
Yeah.
ground. Got three other ones in my hand here that we didn't talk about. So one of them is the genetic fallacy. This is rejecting an idea based on the origins or the source of it rather than its content. All of us have been surprised when we hear somebody that we typically disagree with say something that we do agree with. Right? Is that democratically dangerous? Attributing that to the source and just rejecting it or supporting it based on who said it. Democratically dangerous, politically acceptable. Yeah.
I think it's politically acceptable. I
Yeah.
mean, we're all entitled to an opinion. We don't have to agree with them.
Right.
That's true.
Over here somewhere.
I don't think we have to have some things that are politically acceptable. We're not creating robots.
Right. Pretty common.
Well, the definition on the left is problem. So if it's listed as a problem, none of them should be
Well-
over here.
Yeah, okay, that's a fair point. Maybe we should adjust that. Right. But to be frank, my team peppered a few of these out there that we thought were just politics as usual. We want to get your sense of. Right. So it's over here, I hear it. Is it common, uncommon? Pretty common.
Pretty well.
It's about here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Next
think,
one.
I think that.
Yeah.
The difficulties during the pandemic were certainly all. Who's the expert in making the decision? And some of them have had death threats, they've had to go into hiding. Because even though they are scientifically extremely bright people, the decisions that were made harmed a lot of us.
Yeah.
And so the genetic fallacy comes right into that.
Yeah.
It depends whether you're making a decision based on fact or based on.
Well, this is not, this is just based purely on who said. So I think
If the
what-
scientist sets it based on thought versus a politician saying it based on what.
Right.
They know, or they
Right.
say they.
So,
But it's the definition of fact is where we ran into a problem with the
Right.
pandemic, was that
well, here's even looking beyond facts. So this would be like you're reading an article that says some political scientist from the University of Alberta said X. Are you dismissing it? Or are you now, you're gonna believe it wholeheartedly without a question?
or that's a woke university, we're not gonna listen to them, or that's a, you know, so it happens.
I find it hilarious because when you're going to the University of Calgary, I
You're
did.
going to UC,
Yeah.
and you're ready.
Going I did my PhD at the University of Calgary, so I find the stereotypes very interesting. We're gonna leave it there for now, but to your point, you're absolutely right. When some of these things that are on this side of the spectrum can morph into these things. Right? So Tina Hinshaw, for example, a lot of people disagreed with her based on who she was, based on sometimes the policy decisions that she made. But she had security detail. She had to move her house.
Yeah.
Right?
And was she truly a doctor?
Who, Tina Hinshaw?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her doctor of what?
She's an MD.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, partisan prejudice. It's the idea that you marginalize people based solely on their party preferences or membership. It's an idea of like, I won't invite a United Conservative tonight to Thanksgiving. I won't invite a New Democrat to the birthday party.
Oh, that's political acceptable.
Uncommon. I showed you a graph.
No, I
It
know.
was just actually,
It's uncommon.
not in your experience.
Well, I don't care what the political.
Yeah.
I might steer away from it for a little bit, but. Yeah, okay, maybe it's not probably.
But in your experience, I shouldn't have jumped to the data. I'm interested in your experience. You have one.
Yeah, it's common.
It's pretty common. Okay. And where would you place it?
Loosely dangerous.
Loosely then, so somewhere like here.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
I don't know if it's so much, I struggle with the concept of partisan prejudice, because I don't know if here we're, again, whether we're focused on whether it's NDP, whether it's Liberal, whether it's UCP,
No.
whatever, but I know that there was certainly lots of similar prejudice at COVID based on whether you believed in the vaccination or didn't believe in the vaccination, and it really polarized a lot of families and polarized a lot of friends who may have been on the opposite side of the spectrum on that idea. And I think whether some of them have ever been able to mend that fence, but I've talked to people who have been best friends for their entire life who had a different take on the situation, who basically said, if we're going to remain friends, we can't talk about this. But so it wasn't necessarily more based on a party position, it was more based on your opinion of
Your worldview, your idea.
of COVID and some of the policies and whether it was vaccination, non-vaccination, that really did destroy a lot of families.
Well, and
People were
it's-
not able to have Christmas dinner.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
extremism of both sides, I
Yeah.
guess, there wasn't much of a middle ground, it was either you're with us or you're against us, basically.
But it really polarized a lot of friendships and a lot of families.
And that was. There's just being that there was, yeah.
But I don't know if it was ever, obviously, the party that was in government is making those decisions, but I don't know if for me, it was whether it was a UCP decision, an NDP position, or whatever, it was just that personal opinion on that got extremely polarized and created a lot of
But it's
bad
interesting,
feelings.
it's interesting when it comes to that type of conversation. I was on a TikTok video and they were blaming the provincial government for the lack of fire support. And it got in, and it was funny because it was a conversation about the fire, which quickly turned into a political union conversation. And I'm going, the gentleman I was conversing with was bound and determined that all the firefighters fighting the fire are AUP members. And I'm just going, holy cow. And I said, you're absolutely incorrect in that because all the volunteer firemen are not unionized.
Yeah.
I said, and second, and of course, he was a very liberal oriented person and it got in. So finally, I got to a point where I went, we can agree to disagree and let's just leave it at that. And he still continued and I just left it.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because something is as serious as that. And to me, this isn't a time to point fingers or blame. Let's get through this. Let's get our feet back on the ground and then look and see what happened and what we could have done differently. Talking to a local person that has a house in Jasper. They have been cutting out the deadfall all around Jasper for the last 3 years, which I was unaware of. But that's a person that actually has a vested interest, actually has an educated knowledge of what's been going on in the area, telling me that they have been doing things. And his wife was actually in Jasper when it hit. And the media reports said it was 400 feet high when it rolled in. It wasn't. She said it was probably closer to 100 feet high, but she said the velocity that it moved at was just absolutely insane.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is maybe mostly media, and how others perceive it and share it with others that creates a lot of the problems within politics as well as, personal perception.
Yeah, I think the one thing I would highlight for you on that point is that more and more people are actually unplugging from you.
Mhm.
And we haven't figured out whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what it means is that even if there was a source of truth in the media, we've now lost that. And we're
Well, the
left-
6 o'clock news is not gospel anymore.
No, it's not. And for a whole bunch of reasons that we can get into.
Yeah.
You want to take my course in on media politics? There's a whole bunch of reasons for that. All right, last one we have here is ad hominem attack. So responding to an argument by disparaging someone's personal qualities instead of their ideas.
Rachel Notley is the one that I think of when I see that.
Okay,
Whether or not you agreed with her abilities.
Yeah.
It was her hair
Yeah.
that was talked about
really?
constantly. And as someone with wacky hair, I take it personal, but it was irrelevant.
Right.
And she did a presentation at one of our conferences with the Alberta Municipal. And she was up there, and while she's up there, people at the table were commenting on how she looked. It had nothing to do with what she had to say. And that's terrible, especially coming from other politicians.
Yeah, and I've also heard her voice was shrill.
Her
We
voice.
get that,
was
we get
shrill,
that a lot with female politicians.
I'd like to add more to that, so that you know.
Yeah.
Because I was there too.
But it shouldn't sway people's. Sorry.
It shouldn't, but you're
It
right.
shouldn't, so.
But
I want to put it under politically acceptable along with virtue signaling,
Yeah.
but. Some people aren't educated enough to realize the difference between an opinion and a fact.
Right,
Yeah.
So
It's
therefore, this is kind of moot, because it depends who you're talking.
right.
Well, and I think when it comes to, and we'll use Rachel Notley because that's the name that came up. If you're a conservative, it doesn't matter what she says, what she looks like, she is wrong. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's hard to, I don't know, open your mind and listen to things when you're, and again, like, when you get that political set in my mindset and it just, everything she says is wrong, whether it is or not, it's wrong.
Well, especially when you've got a personal experience, the fact that what she had done is saying that it would have a direct impact on all of us with that.
Mhm.
So I think that, your experience plus the magnitude of the experience may have a strong
For sure.
impact on how you're gonna perceive that.
Well, this is natural, like this, you talk to psychologists, this is a natural human quality is to not look at ideas, you look at the person. Right?
Yeah,
And then you start to make patterns, right? So,
and
you
you
know, fool me once.
everybody else that
My
looks
fault.
the same. I think that's quite common.
quite common.
I was gonna say you can go right to the top with that one, in my opinion.
Is it acceptable?
It's not acceptable, it happens.
Well,
It
Every
happens a lot.
example though was on physical appearance. It's just their person.
Yeah.
Their tendencies.
Rachel Molly has different tendencies. I don't care about her hair or her
Yeah.
voice. She has different tendencies, and that's kind of clouds vision of some of her ideas too.
Yeah.
Well, in the political ring, it seems like there's more and more bashing than you're having your own platform.
Yeah.
Like it's interesting, and I'm not saying PC, I'm not saying Liberal, I'm not saying NDP. Whoever speaks first, the follower bashes whatever they said, and vice versa. And I just wish that people would get their own platform and run on that platform instead of, well, you did this. Well, what are you going to do? Not what they did was wrong. Tell me what you're going to do to make it better.
Yes.
And it seems like just continuously, it's so easy to bash what somebody else has done. How about have a platform of your own and stand by that platform? I think that to
And
me would
that's
be.
when that, particularly when I felt like came in, especially about when we're talking about that, is when those individuals, those political leaders and individuals that should be in a position of advocacy and bringing understanding and educating, instead they're doing exactly what the mayor just said. That's when those personal attacks, I felt like, begin to happen, and it happens all the time. Instead of coming forward, just tell us what you're gonna do, give us the good news. Don't come forward and stand up there and grandstand attacking the other parties, we don't care. We're just gonna form our opinion, give us a way to form our opinion on your political advocacy. And anyhow, I feel like that happens all too often.
I mean, Alex pointed out, there's a thread going around, it can easily be for either party, but the challenge is one party's supporters to come up with the good things that their side would do without mentioning the other side.
Yes, yes.
It's a viral thread now,
Yeah.
because
And
it's tough to do sometimes. But
Exactly.
to get back to where we put up there before, in a world that's driven by, in a political world that's driven by anger, distrust, and mutual loathing, right? This kind of stuff plays. Right, there's a market for this.
Well, it's passion.
It is passion.
Or deception, or for personal gain or whatever, as long as it's an honest passion for those you're supposed to represent versus personal gain on it. And that, we've seen that at the highest level, and just not answering and not respecting the people that you're supposed to be representing and such, and putting up with some of their.
And this is what we were talking about with Michelle earlier, right? We've been talking with councils from across the province about this, and people have very different understandings of who it is that they represent. And you folks are representatives. And I'm sure you've encountered this before. Sometimes you feel like on different issues or at different times, you're representing, the people who voted for you. Sometimes you feel like you're representing the whole community. Sometimes you feel like you're representing the community beyond your borders, because you're making decisions that impact other communities even outside of Canada, right?
But the
Sometimes-
challenge,
Yeah.
Or fiscal responsibilities.
the
sometimes.
challenge you find here too is, I think as an elected official, even if the majority of the people want to do something one way or have a viewpoint on something one way, if you as a council who are here to represent us believe that there's a different way that is better for the community in the long run, it's that dichotomy saying, well, I know the people I talk to think this is the best, but I think, and the council thinks this is the best, which decision is the correct one.
So political scientists label that the first technically called a trustee role, where you have more information than the typical person. And sometimes to make the decision on behalf of the public good, to define what the public good is, you can try to explain to everybody else the information that you have. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But sometimes you need to act as a trustee of the public interest, and occasionally that means being at odds with public opinion, or at least the most vocal members of your community.
See, we have, and it's not, again, I wouldn't call it common, but I think council's probably where sometimes when they do make a decision, especially not necessarily in public or somebody speaking to them, but again, on social media, people will say, why didn't we have a plebiscite on that? Why didn't we have a plebiscite on that? Why didn't we have a plebiscite on that? And I tell people, you elected these people to make those decisions. We can't have a plebiscite on every decision or every item that comes before council. You've elected these people to make those decisions but sometimes we get that when people who don't necessarily agree with the decision that was made, well, we should have had a plebiscite on that.
Well,
I don't understand.
didn't the pandemic bring this into full relief? I mean, how many folks were elected prior to the pandemic? A few, right? I mean, when you were campaigning, you ever give thought to having discussions about what public health rules you might have to decide about in the town? Of course
No.
not. Right? And do the folks in Jasper think that they were going to encounter questions about the existence of their town? Of course not, right? So you're absolutely right. We elect you folks so that you can make decisions on behalf of the broader community. And what I think we're finding, sorry, just 1 second. But I think what we're finding is that in some cases, we've elected people that have that may have the stripe that we like, but they don't have the ethics, they don't have the judgment that we wish they would have, right? And those folks that are engaging in this kind of stuff on this side, either themselves or with folks that are in their orbit, are kind of polluting the environment as a result. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah, no good.
I do. But some of those decisions were
Made for you.
made for us.
Yeah.
Not because of our CAO, but they came down from higher avenues saying this is what you are going to do. We had no choice.
Yep.
And so it was taken away from us, given that it's dictated, this is how you're going to respond. And so that, was not our choice to make. I mean, we may have made a different choice, but, sometimes we just don't have to say. And from my understanding, we are supposed to represent our community, what's in the best interest for them, and take out our personal.
Yes.
opinion.
Yep.
And a lot of times, I think that is swayed by whoever is in our circle
Yep.
and that sort of thing, whatever, and whether we like it or not, sometimes we have to make those choices
Yep.
and make those decisions, but I vote against it because, that's what the feedback I was getting
Yep.
from the people that talked to me. And
Thanks so much for spending part of your morning with us. We really appreciate it. Are there any other questions or thoughts?
You know, card, Jared?
I do, yeah, for sure.
thank you so much, guys.
No worries.
Awesome.
If it's all right with you, we'll come back.
Oh, yeah.
After we have, okay. I'd much rather be here with you folks than zooming in.
So Jared,
Yeah.
do you have a
Next
time
steps.
frame on
Yeah.
when that would be?
Yeah, so next steps, we are going to be taking, you're our last engagement. No, we have Edmonton on when we get back tomorrow, I guess. Once that engagement is done, we'll be rolling up all of this stuff, and by November 6th, the day after the US presidential election, we'll be launching our website with the initial round of tools. At that point, we plan to come back around to the host communities that we've been working with and a bunch of others. So probably in springish, when the roads are a bit better, we'll be coming around again. We're also happy to come on invitation to any community gatherings you're having to talk about this stuff. I know we were talking about the mid-sized cities caucus invited us. If there's an equivalent for that Hannah's part of.
I don't think,
Okay.
no, AM has their small municipalities
Yeah.
committee.
Right.
But there's not a
Yeah.
group of elected officials who gather, or mayors that gather from small towns across Alberta to meet. I don't know. Similar in this area, we've got, I don't know if I'd call it southeastern Alberta, but we've got Palliser Economic Partnership that sometimes
Yeah.
have ties in with their meetings at mayors and reefs.
Yeah.
Meetings.
So if you
but,
think we could be of value in any of those, please do extend the invitation. We're happy to come back down again. We love it down here. So
just keep in touch with Michelle
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah.
Here, as you're where I'm leaving,
Yeah.
so there will be a new person in here, but in the interim, certainly communicate through Michelle in terms of providing any information that can come forward to council and or specific dates when you're ready to roll out in the future.
sounds good. Thanks, everybody, for your time. I appreciate it. Yeah. We'll bring this stuff down.
Yeah, probably.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Want a photocopy?
Oh, is that-
Photocopy? Okay.
I did want.
Are you, Jared, are you okay if I photocopy?
Yeah, you can keep one and then photocopy it.
Okay, well, I can photocopy it and. Thank you.
Jared, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
That was awesome. So, can we get a motion to do the official thank you from Council Warwick? All in favor? Gary. Thank you very much.
You want to?
Yes, I do, yeah. It's interesting, there's no right, wrong, or otherwise.
No,
You can put those in any category you wanted, depending upon your.
Oh, no, I won't.
no, for sure. And your own experience, right? I mean, let's be frank, you know, men might look at some of this stuff as being non-threatening and women might look at it and think,
The interesting thing is the lack of knowledge about the chain of command of our municipal provincial and federal networks. It's just retarded. You know, with the pandemic, you know, we took our marching orders from the provincial government, and I would challenge numerous times, put your big boy pants on and stand up to the man, and I'm going, we can't stand up to the man, our funding comes through the provincial government, so unless you're prepared to become a sovereign state, and
yeah, I know.
and you're just going, wow. And the same thing with the fire thing, like I actually got challenged why we weren't sending our fire department.
Yeah.
And I said, well, we can't send our fire department until we're requested
Yes.
by someone in the provincial board. And luckily enough, our fire chief here is a member of the fire chiefs. Okay, and so very connected, and we communicate all the time. There was a call for us to go and support at high level.
Yep.
Nothing in Jasper. And one of my local ratepayers was just livid, right? Then we had sent guys to Jasper. Of course, there was a post on Facebook about it,
Right.
requesting help. Call this number and help. And I'm just going, it's not, it doesn't
How it
work.
works. It doesn't work. Thanks so much.
But it was, yeah. It's funny how perception of the powers that we have.
You run into that quite a bit. Yeah.
That's why I like answering, I joined this group to do surveys.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Thanks again, everybody. We'll
Yeah,
take our
thank you.
leave now.
Travel safe.
Yeah. we will. Thanks so much. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Everybody got one?
You're the only one watching your phone.
know.
Yeah, the family figure. Super interesting.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, it's time.
Yeah.
It's timely. What's going on in with society,
Well, in the world in general, like it's, yeah.
because that's one of the, you know, gonna be one of the topics. I'm sure at AM is just, you know, civil discourse, municipal politicians are not wanting to run again. Not wishing they hadn't run and quitting, just because of some of the, you know, abuse or, criticism they're taking that, has even extended into, you know, families and stuff that, you know, husbands whose wives are getting criticism about decisions that their council made that their husband may sit on and vice versa. And so it's being very, unfortunately, it's trending.
Well, and I'm not opposed to being challenged,
No.
but, as when we're elected, there has to be a certain amount of trust. I'm not saying respect, because to me, respect is something to learn, but it's a super big challenge to talk to people and understand their frustrations and stuff, but ultimately, I think we all do the best job that we possibly can, and it's not good.
I don't know if it's any bigger now than it's ever been, because I don't know.
Well-
I mean, I'm at a different level of politics. I mean, in the school board, I can tell you that was way worse. Like, if you think this is bad, you see nothing else.
So, but in the past, Councillor Warwick, there was mayors that were mayors for 25, 30 years. And now that's, well, and councillors, I mean, you might have one or two new ones sprinkled in here and there, but now, you know, there's a ton of, if I recall it, at Alberta Munis, like half the room is new or more. and talking to some, they're not coming back.
But that has been always the case, and I mean, you have to look at even the age demographic, I think, you know, there was a time, you know, they have served their time. And I think they have lots of them have moved on without a good time, you know, I think it's very interesting. I don't know if it's worse now than it's ever been, is what I'm asking. Like, I think there's been times in history you can look back, and I think, you know, it's probably been a lot worse. I mean, the threats and some of the stuff that I think the polarization to history may have even been worse at one point in time. You know, but pandemics, wars, all those things create a different dynamic when it comes to politics.
And I think all of that region.
Okay, very good discussion. That was awesome. And Mr. Neil, we'll get
Did you guys pass a motion while I was out?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Just want to spend a little bit of time just bringing council up to speed as to where the downtown project is at. Certainly, if you have a moment or two, you can certainly get a bit of a visual now. Now that the bump out curbs are in and the outlines are in. So basically where they are as of today, they are finishing the bump outs at the easterly part of the block, so in front of Dr. Dave and the Bubble Tea store. They are finishing those bump outs, the curbs, pouring the curbs, finish forming and pouring them. They did have, as I said in my report, their first day of pouring some concrete, they had some issues. So they are going to be pulling out some of the concrete that they did pour. My understanding that was supposed to happen today, they were gonna start taking the bad sections out and re-pouring them today. It's one of those not 100% sure why, but they were getting cracking almost immediately in the finishing, like 2 to 3 hours worth. So they weren't sure whether it was a little bit to do with the mix, whether it was a little bit to do with the weather. It was hot and windy. All kinds of variables. They did put a slurry down, a concrete slurry down as a base rather than compacted gravel, because they didn't want to risk damaging some of the buildings by a lot of compaction right adjacent to them. And whether the concrete slurry drew some of the moisture out of the concrete when it was poured. So a bunch of different ideas. We did meet with them on Monday and said, you know, everybody, the good part was everybody agreed. So the town said, no, that's not acceptable. The general contractor said, no, that's not acceptable. The concrete contractor said, no, that's not acceptable. And the concrete supplier said, no, that's not acceptable. Everybody would have had their name on it and weren't happy with it. So they did make a slight change to the mix. Let it batch a little bit longer. Tried wetting the base before they poured it, and they've had success with the last 2 days of pours. So we think that's moving forward. Once the curbs are done today, they need 5 days before they can do the paving. So on Tuesday following the long weekend, the plan is right now they will come in and they will finish their final layer of gravel and compaction on Tuesday, paving on Wednesday. And I'm not sure when the concrete, the inside part of the being done, because they are colored concrete and a stamped concrete. So it's going to take a little bit longer, but they can pave around the curbs as of Tuesday. So first block will generally be moving on. I did talk to Brooks this morning. Brooks basically has their whole crew that's not needed right now. So they're down in East Cooley working. We could have proceeded. So I did tell Zach that he can start to plan to proceed on Tuesday to start on the second block. So we might have both blocks tied up for a day or two, but the reason we did them in blocks was to try and mitigate the time, but he's now got a crew that's not working here because they're waiting for concrete guys to do, so.
So you said the bump are colored concrete, so
Yeah.
it's like slightly darker or?
Red.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We couldn't go boiler blue.
No,
Oh.
can't make, I can't make
Is that
this,
standard?
yeah, pretty much, yeah,
And why?
just to bring a different
Dimension.
color to it and a different look to it, so.
That's new. I don't remember that.
I think if you look in the ones out there that they.
Oh, yeah,
It'll be like a shale color, not a red like Angie's jacket.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
probably gonna be that bright red, but just
Yeah.
to add some color to the project, so it's not a sea of gray. So that should be completed this week, so. And move off first block onto the second block, I anticipate, I don't wanna jinx this, I anticipate the second block will move faster. Primarily because they're through, a lot of the work in that second intersection. They've got their manholes in, they got everything in to tie into, they don't have to be placing them and doing that. And we are optimistic that the contamination, portion will be less on the second block. There may be some closer to where the Truman Ford lot is, but, up until that point, we anticipate that they're be free and clear to go, so.
So is there a change to the budget or no? Like, I understand that the amount of concrete that was initially accounted for was used in the first draft.
No, that was, they've used more gravel than they initially
Oh, I'm sorry, not
anticipated,
gravel, I'm sorry.
but, no, there's. Obviously, as you move through a project, there's a few change orders as you move along, but we've had nothing substantial. We've actually had, one that was a significant cost savings to us, so. As we move forward, like, you never wanna say we're ahead of the game and things are gonna be good. They're looking good right now, but, until you get the project completed, so. But it's, yeah, that's kind of where it's at. The street light bases are in. So my understanding today, ATCO was going to be taking the street lights down in the second block. And they were going to have their contractor install the street lights in the, first block tomorrow, so. So it's coming together, so. I think by this time next week, most of the first block will be done. Like, they're only gonna pave initially one lift. So, well, they generally will do it in lifts, because you don't wanna put pavement that's, if your pavement's gonna be this thick,
As far as.
they'll do it in two. So they'll put a lift, they call it, and then they will continue on down the next blocks and put a lift on those, and then when they're all done, they'll come in with the final lift and they'll go from one end to the other. So,
So that means it'll be stuff.
yes, they'll be accessible with one lift, yes, yeah. So this block here will be similar to what the west or east block would have been, where people can come in, park, turn around and come back out the west field. So they're actually, we're hoping there may be the ability at the second intersection where Dr. Dave's is, that there would be half of the intersection open, so one lane traffic could come and go north-south on that. I think they can open up half of it, so. So I guess, is there any questions people have, concerns, comments?
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Is there going to be, like, has a decision been made regarding other campsites? Or what was the thinking of?
Well, council made that decision last meeting, they said no. We-
Okay, so
Yeah,
that-
they could be temporary structures, but the permanent ones were defeated last council meeting.
And was the town providing this information?
Yeah, but my impression was we were definitely gonna work with them and Yeah,
And how soon are those gonna be?
when the businesses had a plan as to how they would want them to be looked and built.
So all the costs of doing the business is done?
No, I think that was the intention to come back to council for that, was how I interpreted the decision on the portable one.
Yeah, it's something that would be provided and rented.
Yeah.
Not figure out, but
I do have, so the advertisement that went out and has been going out to reach out to all businesses for advertisement. There's been some concerns about that. Why can't we just advertise all the businesses that they're open? Instead of asking for a call out to the businesses to see if they are in fact open. Some of the business owners don't even have any seen this advertising, for one thing. And we know these businesses exist. It's not like we have 300 of them. We might have 7. Why can't we just advertise if the businesses are open and put it on that advertising?
It's something we can do. We made the decision to promote that if they wanted us to promote their business and where their access is from, what their hours were, to provide us their information.
But some of them haven't even seen it, so there's been no personal contact, and we don't even know anything about it. So why wouldn't we just, maybe I'm making a suggestion, could we?
Yeah.
Just do, we don't have a lot, why couldn't, so could we, in fact, do the advertising for them, instead of keeping, we have 1 or 2 on there, and then none of the rest are listed even. And we do a call out for them to call, and to me, it never changed. I mean, maybe one more business would come. Could we just advertise and say, this business, and this business are open during construction and figure out what those hours are? I mean,
We can have those conversations with them. We put some of the onus on them to let us know
And the Chamber of Commerce,
in the chamber.
but some of these businesses haven't seen it.
but they should,
Well,
They have not seen this advertising, and one of the businesses had their names, they weren't even listed. Like the business in the downtown core, it's not like we have 200, like I said. We have a mere few businesses.
Well,
I
we're
guess that's-
talking, there's two separate issues, or two separate. The chamber the chamber was responsible for the draw, for lack of better words, of setting up the boxes in each of the stores and talking to them and doing that. The second one, the issue in terms of which businesses are open and when they're open and where their access is, we put on our e-news. And
in the flyers.
And we did ask people to, if they had a business and they wanted to be posted on there, to let us know.
I'm not talking about the chamber.
Yeah.
It's separate, I don't-
But they're the ones.
But we
that-
asked
yeah.
the
I
chamber
know
to,
that's their duty.
but we
I'm
asked
saying
the
what's
chamber,
on the town of Hanna website, on our advertising, on our newsletter, is what I'm
Okay.
referring to, because that's what others are doing. So that, I'm just asking as we go forward, could we just identify who they are? I mean, like I said, we don't have a whole ton of businesses. We have a near few businesses downtown that are open to the public on a regular basis. And so we could just, we could just maybe do a reach out and advertise what those businesses are and just provide them. Instead of, keep advertising if you can get in touch with us.
Yeah, no, that's certainly an option.
Well, and their hours would be like. Yeah.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
I think everything's been going well. Um,
Yeah.
Positive,
I think
positive
so.
feedback. I haven't had a whole bunch of negatives. I mean. The odd one here and there, but with construction, that's to be understood, so.
No, I think for the most part, it's gone well. Knock on wood, we haven't encountered any big surprises when you start digging down below, and that's always the fear of the unknown. I think there was a couple different locations, there were some tanks found that were dug out, but unexpected as you got to there and they're digging and it's this, so.
And the staff, I will say, is very good, because I know the other night, it was, later in the evening, and, one particular business, one young lady could not get into the business because of how those platforms are put out. So she was able to find an individual, working on the street. It was kind of a really interesting conversation because he was from Ukraine. And he did come and help maneuver those having people work.
Yeah, from my perspective, I think the Brooks has been very good, been very approachable, and I think they have made every effort they could to reduce the impact and help our businesses get through the construction process. So I agree with you. I think they've been very good, so. So if there's no further questions on that, that's where it's at. I encourage you to take a look. And if you want a few minutes, we can go after the meeting. If you want to go, we can, you want to walk through there. That certainly is an option.
So with the kitchen, Kim, just, so did we make that island in the middle stationary now?
We have,
Okay, no, I just read that there was power sort of thing.
no, there's a couple areas where still need to tweak in
Okay.
there to try and
Yeah.
make it a little bit better. Fielding place, just want to have a little bit of discussion. So we have sold a third lot. So a third lot has been sold. I'm not sure when construction will start, whether it'll start this fall or in the spring. In regard to the spec house project, I just wanted to bring council up to speed. So special areas, considered the request to be a partner, have come back and said they are interested in being a partner, but for them to be a partner, it has to be a public process. They didn't want, they considered this sole sourcing, they wanted to be a public process. So Mark and I have chatted and basically said, let's put it on hold for a moment. Certainly there's gonna be a new person replacing me, a new person replacing Mark. And once they're in, sit down with Jordan in terms of what exactly they want to see in terms of a public process. It would probably be a difficult RFP to put out. But they just, special areas wasn't comfortable unless there was a public process. I know our council talked about it. I know Harvest Sky board talked about it, and they were of the opinion that the project idea was brought to us from an individual that they wanted to honor that request and get this one going based on them bringing the idea forward. And then from that point on, any future development would be a public process. But special areas looks at it a little bit differently, and I respect that. So it's on hold at the moment. I don't know if there's anything else, Mr. Mayor. I think for the most part, over the summer, everything's been going well. Our swimming pool has attendance has picked up. Certainly with the warmer weather, we had a really slow start, but I think now looking at how revenues come in, especially on the daily admissions, certainly making progress towards meeting our targets. Same with Fox Lake Park, it was a little quieter, but I think if you go out there now, you might find a couple of spots. It's generally full. Surplus equipment sale, so council's aware we had this surplus equipment sale. We generated just over $1,900 in total sales, so it wasn't any big items there, but we got rid of a lot of stuff that we felt we had no use for moving forward. So
Did you get rid of everything?
I don't believe we got rid of everything, Councilor Bowden. I can't remember what Kevin told me,
The
but
two large flat landscape rocks were left.
yeah.
There
No,
was,
they've sold.
have they sold now?
Well, yeah, because I don't
The
know.
large landscape rocks? The two great big flat ones?
Well, there were two, the big rocks.
great big
themselves. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the bricks themselves, yeah,
Two large flats.
Yeah.
Of bricks.
those went for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was two large landscaping rocks, and then I believe, and don't quote me on this, Kevin said there was a couple of smaller lots of paving stones or whatever they were, so.
And the
Yeah,
large
for the
rocks
most-
have sold, cause
The
I
rocks are gone now.
followed up when I got home from
Okay,
holidays
yeah,
and they were gone.
Cause
He said,
I'd mentioned to Kevin, I said, just give me a list of what hasn't sold and we can make a decision from there, and I haven't seen that yet, so. Perfect.
So other than that, I guess, Mr. Mayor, just, if there's any questions, comments, concerns, about anything generally this summer across the board, I'll do my best to answer them.
This is different from the council and to everyone.
I have a question, and, it's regarding the vacant lot downtown that we have reset, whether or not, to continue that. During the winter, the temporary park or whatever has blown off and it left unaddressed for a period of time. And, the property was not looked after and I just wondering if we would continue with that or whether if we wanted to not continue with that arrangement. And the reason being that it could be a potential site for further downtown activity. I think one of the candidates have mentioned that they had an activity downtown that brought bands in or some other entity, and whether or not that would be something to consider down the way, or just to leave things the way that, I think the amount is $850.
Yeah, the lease is 850, so it's not a significant
By year.
dollar, dollar. It was basically to replace, I think it's just higher than what the taxes would have been on it if it was a bare lot. So that's certainly, as I mentioned, that we have a lease agreement that has a 30-day termination, so if I.
So are they using water as well?
No.
In their own water.
Right, okay. Okay,
Yeah, so if that's the direction from council, certainly that they don't want to lease that space out in the same format, certainly that can be the letter of termination, at least can be authorized.
Well, that was just, concerns I had about, the fact that it was left, unattended and that's actually quite disgusting. If we're cleaning up the downtown and, that's a potential down the way, then maybe it should be nipped in the bud and maybe other plans or wait until other plans come forward or, just wanted to bring it up for discussion.
I've actually had a couple of residents mention that the empty plots and stuff have been blown
Yeah,
around.
we talked to the individual
Yeah.
and cleaned up this week, so.
Gotcha. Okay, no business items, Council Warwick?
I guess, that was one too. I had a couple of people come to me and question that it was unsightly.
Yeah.
That particular property. Also, I have some great concerns about, their bathroom facility, especially up near the, ball diamonds are not being unlocked. For say our locals. And I know there's been some problems with, some individuals maybe sleeping in there using the bathrooms, but now, our locals are feeling like they're being ostracized. They're not being able to use these facilities because we are not unlocking them and allowing our own citizens to use these facilities. So I guess that brings concerns to me as well, if we're not opening these bathrooms now. Like I had an individual said, I decided to go pee on the grass, because I go up there. I walk thinking I can use the facility, and the facility is not open. So why are we not opening these facilities for our public to use, I guess?
So as you were, it's a difficult topic, difficult conversation, but we have had right, wrong terminology. We have some of our homeless people, we have had drug addicts in there shooting up, leaving needles behind. Having people walk in there and they're in there and leaving needles, leaving stuff behind that we felt was unsafe for our public to encounter. We've had the RCMP up numerous times to our washrooms to have these people removed from the facilities. So we made a decision to lock them for that purpose Because we didn't want anybody's kids to be walking in there, or anybody to be walking in there and find themselves in that situation. They're not monitored, they're not chaperoned. We have given the users who use the facilities keys for when they're up at our ball diamonds. It's primarily our two sets of ball diamonds, and we've given the users keys. So when they're up there using the facility, they have the ability to use the washrooms.
So I guess my question is, it was my understanding that probably what we categorize as drug users or these homeless people are, maybe in the later hours and in the nighttime hours.
No,
So
midday.
this is still happening during the daytime?
Well,
too?
since we've locked them, we haven't had that issue because they can't get in.
So could we maybe have some kind of different formulation now that maybe during the days those are unlocked? And then during the evening, the close of the days or?
But they're using them midday.
They're using it.
We'll do whatever direction council wanted. We just felt that it was unsafe to leave them open, not being monitored.
Well, I think it's no different than the park. And obviously the new subdivision, that's what we always call it. I mean, people are finding, paraphernalia there too. Just most recently, somebody found some needles. And so, I mean, it's everywhere. And I think we need to, maybe need to address this at a different level. But, I guess I'm just concerned about authorizing our own people that, are used to going for their walk and taking their dogs and all the rest of it using these facilities. And now, because of what's happening, we can't even offer those to local people.
It's also spilling over into the other day, I guess it was on Sunday morning. I was told there was somebody, in the raw bank, at the machines and they were high on something, and because I was a single person there, so maybe you want to consider going in. So I think it's another issue that maybe we should be putting more emphasis on getting rid of that sort of behavior happening around that community. I'm not sure if it's this year or last year. Well, I haven't heard about it this year, but I believe last year, even the little lodge right beside within the Hector Park was being utilized by others that had other ideas for its use than what it was intended. So maybe we should be asking the RCMP to put more of an emphasis on getting rid of that. There seems to be no consequences. They just come back and do it again. But maybe it's something we should be putting a harder stance on getting rid of using public space for their topics.
I guess, yeah.
Our communities at risk, and the children. I think it's been in other parks, doesn't it? I'm not sure if it's been at the school grounds or at the former primary school grounds where also paraphernalia and another area that's open for the public. I think it's unacceptable for us to not do anything stronger than what is or isn't being done.
Well, and if I can just add to that, like another concern, so the overflow in the new subdivision, now is coming into people's yards. So when they can't get access to water on public property, now we see a hose in somebody's yards, and now they've entered into the yards, and so what do we do? Like, what's happening here? So we're moving them around from one, and all of a sudden now they're ending up on people's private property. So I have some great concerns about what all this looks like, and I think maybe, maybe something we need to have a conversation about, and maybe address it like kind of at a different level.
I don't disagree that it's an issue and it's a challenge. I don't have any solutions. And that's the challenging part from us as a municipality, not having.
Would we like to set up a meeting with Staff Sergeant Wellsman?
Well, I think that's the first step to have that discussion as to what they can do and how they can deal with it. I know our frustration is we find them in the washrooms. They don't want to leave. We call the RCMP come and grab them, and they stumble out of the washroom, and they know who they are. Like the RCMP know who they are, and off they go.
And they go on to another site. That it's not solving the problem for them or for the community. And so something needs to be done. When they send them off somewhere to get help, or it's just unacceptable. And like I said, we've got lots of children around that you know, are going to be exposed to that as well. I don't think we, or any of our residents want them. And, whether we like it or not, I think that is what kind of community do we want, live the lifestyle. Well, what lifestyle are we promoting by allowing it to continue on?
And water is a necessity. If they don't, they're gonna find water. They don't get it in these public places. They're going to private properties now to get it.
First of all, the one thing that can be done, it's the only tool available, is to trespass them. Okay? So if they've been told to leave and they keep coming back, they could be trespassed. Then they can be arrested if they're found on the property again. But the Maggie's laundromat, I'm stuck using the laundromat and I won't go back because that was scary. I mean, they were in that shower bathroom for over 45 minutes. And when he came out, he was so high on meth, couldn't even walk anymore. And I'm all by myself in the laundromat. So there's a lot of places, but you can't force them into therapy. You can't. There's so many things you can't do. The only protection we have by law is to trespass them from the property, especially if it's private. So if they're found on someone's property, the homeowner has to file trespass orders or else they'll just keep doing. There's nothing else we can do.
There's a slap on the wrist.
Thing is, you get rid of 6 of them, 4 more move in, you know, or it's a.
Get rid of 6 and 8 more move back in.
The trouble is, and I don't wanna, we're not the only ones facing this across the
everywhere.
continuum, and I know. I was talking to Manona the other day, she came back from Saskatoon, she said it's everywhere, and it is everywhere. We're just now, we notice it, we see it, and it's unusual for us to see it in the small community, and it bothers people in the small community. In the cities, they're like, oh yeah, okay, you get used to it and it's like, but here it's new, it's fresh, and our citizens don't like it, don't want it, and I respect that. I just don't have the answers into how we're gonna do that.
So I
do
think we'll set up a
I
meeting
do
with
think
Rob
having Sergeant Walsman,
and understand his limitations and
maybe at the August info session, we can have him here and we can have a discussion about that and what options he may recommend moving forward, what might benefit the RCMP in terms of dealing with these issues. I guess to answer Councillor Warwick's question, no, in the short term, that's a decision we made administratively. If council would like the washrooms to be open, typically they would be open till another 2-3 weeks, and they'd be closed anyway through the winter. But because the washrooms generally that people are talking about are there for specific purposes. So they're there for our users of our soccer field, our ball diamonds. They're not general washrooms that are out there for public use. Yes, when they're there, they're nice and they're amenity. But if council wishes us to reopen them, we're certainly prepared to reopen them. That's just a decision we made for the safety of our children and our families.
Well, and just, I might add too, like, you know, they have to use facilities too. So, you know, what are they using for facilities? So that poses another concern for me. So, you know, yes, I think in my opinion, maybe the monitoring has to change, but I think we need to, at least they're going there. They need water and they need to use a bathroom. So at least they would use those. So where are they deputy? Where is that all happening? I mean, they're finding it in different locations in the trees, here, there, and everywhere. I don't know. I think we need to monitor those bathrooms, but they need to be accessible. Because rather than them using what we would call our outdoor facilities, wherever they are, yeah, and I mean, the needles is a problem, but we're also finding those in the park, in open parks, not just in the bathrooms. So I honestly, I feel like those need to be open so that we can, and forcing them now to go onto people's private property to get water. I mean, I don't know.
could we maybe set up porta potties in Hector King at the Ball Diamonds? And I realize that's not the solution to the problem, but it's a Band-Aid.
Anything's an option, Mr. Mayor. There's a cost.
Oh, no, I'm very aware of that,
Um,
but there's a cost in monitoring and we're,
well, there 100%.
and we're
there's a cost
exposing our
for
staff
monitoring, yeah.
to,
Unsafe work conditions, yeah.
yeah. So that's why I'm thinking with a porta potty. Again, there is a cost attached to said porta potty, cleaning, maintaining, so on and so forth. But I would sooner do that than I would to expose our staff to bad situations, if I could.
Well, and I don't,
Counselor.
I guess the enabling, I don't want to enable, people either, like, you know what? by
You can't
putting-
have it both ways,
By
unfortunately.
putting porta potties, I mean, we already have a facility there. Why would we not just use that and do a level of education? At least our staff know, when some people went to the park the other night, I mean, they're 14, 13, and 12-year-old kids didn't know what the needle was. At least we can educate our staff when they go in there, they would know that they have to have gloves or whatever.
No, our staff is.
They're, well, yeah, and I'm sure they are, whereas when it's just thrown in a park. I mean, if you're gonna take the displacement of, if you force them out of there, they're going somewhere else. They're going somewhere, and so the
That's-
paraphernalia that goes with it is going somewhere else too.
But would there be any benefit to putting cameras on the outside of those stations?
We know who they are.
There's the people, yeah.
People, I mean.
Identification isn't the issue. Like I said, I'm not comfortable exposing, staff to a confrontation with somebody that's higher or in a bad way.
Vigilante.
But it's not just our, it's not just our staff, Mr. Mayor, too.
Well, even of our public, like, well, he's exactly
Children.
Councilor Murphy at the laundromat. I mean, she's in the laundromat doing laundry and somebody comes out that's intoxicated and she has no idea he's there. We have no idea of his state of
Well,
mind.
even in our spray park, the way it's set up, you can lock yourself in. And that's what they've been doing.
Well, they're not washing, that is for public use, it's not available as well.
Well, we've left the spray park one open. Generally, it's been better just from the fact that, especially in the hot weather, there's been people around.
More traffic.
More traffic, but we have had some early mornings when we found people in, even though they're locked at night. They open at whatever in the morning, somebody gets in there before the activity gets going there, they lock themselves in. I don't know what the solution is.
It's not a unique problem.
It's not something that I want to expose my staff to, but it's not something I want to expose our unknown people who want to walk into the washroom to use it and find somebody high on drugs that are in there, or they're in there doing it, while somebody walks in there and sees that, or
Do we have an outreach program in town at all?
in regards to what would you determine outreach?
Outreach to, well, they have them in New York and Chicago where they reach out, so they go to those washrooms in the morning and, try to counsel or help that person.
I don't
We
know that we
don't.
have that. I think we have, if they want help, they've been going through lengths. And they've been there's some that are utilizing that, so the ones that want help. But ultimately, they have to want help go seek help. We don't have anyone that actually can go out and help.
Yeah, we don't have those resources, Councilor Murphy here. Lynx is doing I think an outstanding job for what they're
Resources
required
they
to do, and they do create some relationships with those people through their lunch program and different things, but they're not counseling them, and they're talking to them if they want to talk in terms of what options are available to them, but again, the individual has to want to go down that road. So I don't know, it's a lose.
How about we give
Situation.
codes on the door, so you give those to our people that are using those facilities, and then they give code to get in, and then they would lock them in.
An option, but it's an option. We'd have to costly option in terms of getting all the locks
I think
changed.
no matter what we do, it's gonna be costly.
So, and I don't have a price to what that would be to let council know, so.
Well, you're gonna do change, everybody.
No.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I know we didn't solve anything, Council Work. I know we had a good discussion. I guess moving forward, I do need, unless I hear otherwise, that's the direction we've taken, is to lock them. If council wishes us to open them, if someone wants to make a motion to open them, and if council approves that, we will. But in the interim, I guess we're soon into August. The facilities will be closed generally by the end of August at the latest. Do we just proceed as we are now, even though it might not be ideal?
Counselor.
And have the RCMP here to have a further discussion?
So with the golf course, are they having the same issues, Kevin?
They haven't said anything.
Counselor?
I'm willing to bet if our greenskeeper finds them, they'll. See what I mean, be open
Yeah, no, I
see whatever
I'm just
I'm
thinking of
fine
public
with that.
washrooms, and I know there's two different ones on the golf course.
Again, it's a busy enough place all day. There's people there early morning, they're mowing in the morning. But there's been no.
Maybe a deterrent.
They were
different in the
trees,
winter.
There was somebody out there the other day that came out and they asked them, where are you going? And just pulled his hat down and started smoking the stuff. We just kept walking. So they're on the trees and more there, but I would be willing to make that motion. That we open those facilities. So that they can be used for our public. And that they be tightly monitored by our staff or calling them.
Well, we're not gonna, just so you're aware, we're not gonna get there some people.
I think it's
I wonder what the policies are of larger organizations like Canada Post, because come winter, it's gonna be a different issue as well. And the banks, those, you know, yeah, with those vestibules.
Lobbies of the hotel, lobbies of the apartment buildings, lobbies of the manor.
I think there's somebody there to even away, you know. Like as far as the hotels and the
Hotels, yes, but the
Thanks.
banks, no.
Banks.
The manor only has a
Post office.
manager there during the day.
I just think, to be honest, for safety for our public and our children, they're going to go somewhere. So if we force them out of those facilities, and not that I wanted, support or accommodate them. But right now, as it sounds, what I'm hearing and seeing is that we have forced them out, so now they've made their way, into other areas and onto private property because they are seeking out water. And so it is an issue.
I don't think that will, like, if you open up, they're not gonna all suddenly go there and then they're gonna go anywhere else.
I'm just saying they
I
might not,
don't
but
think
it's-
it's huge. I think this is more this.
Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor to direct staff to unlock the washrooms and lock them at the end of the day.
We're not technically,
Not
technically,
technically,
but because of timing.
Direction
I'm
of-
okay with that.
yeah, direction of council, I guess.
Well, that's I don't know what the best answer is. There is no good answer.
Can put risk on the other public that may catch them and want to confront them and then get into a negative situation as well as, I think that.
So would it be a proposal, not a motion? Would that be the accurate?
Well,
So
yeah.
all in favor of the motion? Opposed? Carried. Sorry, defeated.
Wandering around the streets and
Councilor Oak, you've had your speech.
it wasn't.
Business items, we covered that roundtable. Councilor Kroll,
I attended the. Rocky Mountain House, conference. On Friday night, I go. And I can't get to Friday night. I go back home. It's good you guys sit there for 58 hours. But, it's a really good bed that you gave me. And, excellent performance on, Friday night.
what do you got there, Fred? Snacks?
So I'm open up, we can share it.
Were there a lot of people that attended?
I'd say probably 70 to 80, I would say. Yeah, like for Friday, I don't know what they had for Saturday, but because there was a lot of people brought their spouses, and, different things like that. Yeah. Oh, hot chocolate. Hot chocolate.
I see the tin cups are coming back as a merchandising item.
Yeah. The town of Rocky Mount House promo item.
Good.
But, why it's very important. They've been in it for quite a while. And it's very important. And the smoke wasn't bad there. I mind it. It was really amazing. I couldn't believe it.
It's strange how the in different places, like up around Elk Point, St. Paul, Coal Lake, that area. They've had massive amounts of smoke. And they're as far away from the fires as anyone are, but it seems to, for whatever reason, accumulate in that area, so. Counselor Bowden.
I don't have much, except, just trying to find out what's going on with replacing our CAO with by the sky economic development. And I guess Ray has taken that on, unbeknownst to the rest of us. There has been an application or an announcement, accepting applications, and the deadline for that is August 9th.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that the board will be invited to go through those as well. Just on another note, I have, brought up with email that, the road that goes down Roundhouse Road, towards the town storage site is on Roundhouse Society property, and, we are losing more and more of our frontage that we'll be needing for events on the way, and just more and more activity that is going down, and that is not, supportive of what we are looking at. So we, are considering discussing, getting our property back and asking the town to use other accesses and not be going on that road and limiting access for, others that are also using it as well. And, there is a access for the town off of a south municipal road, and there is a road that extends further on the south side of Tim Hortons through there, so, yeah, we're just, a little disappointed with how much of the road is encroaching on our property, and just will be asking for it back. Probably will be making a presentation at the next council meeting, and, showing the visual of where our property goes, so. Aside from that, that's.
So I'm just curious, like, so is that up to the town then to, reconstruct the road, so it's not on that part of the property? Is that?
Well, the challenge is, that when the road was built even at the entrance point into, off of the house or trail was built in the wrong spot. So, and there is some encroachment on the road, the actual road right away from existing property owners who built buildings that encroach into the road. So it'd be a matter of, I guess, council having them remove their buildings off of that property to get back to the true road right away. I believe it's been this way, I don't know how many years, but almost forever. But that's just the way the natural road was built, and technically, if you remember Tim Hortons, there is a piece of green space just on the north side. That's where the road is supposed to come in from and go there. So there is on paper a legal road right of way.
So there is an encroachment agreement?
No,
There's no.
no.
And so, although we are supposed to be taxes, you know, it's based on the number of acres, and those acres are used by us as well as the other existing owners are using acres that don't belong to them. And that really is a concern, but we're getting more and more people coming out to wander to the property. We're getting lots of traffic driving down that little trail, which also is on our property, and there, whenever it rains, there's a mud bog that appears to go on, and it's a concern. We have liability insurance, but we are kind of done with it. We've been grooming our property for people to walk and bike and all that sort of thing, but not the traffic that's been going through. And to be honest with you, a lot of the town, they're zipping down there and, yeah, there's potential risk and I'd like to be, proactive regarding it. I haven't mentioned it at the last term as well. And just, now it's going to be a point for going to be getting development and drawing more people out there and such. And, we've got dogs that are going out there and we don't mind that. But, we've given the property for our public use, not as a dog park. And we're getting people out there that are just not, showing any respect to the property and that sort of thing. So we'd like to take some steps to alleviate any potential risk to any of our visitors that are stepping in the path as well as, with the traffic that is flying through there, so.
You have to put up a big fortress.
You want to do a big fortress, I know, just putting a couple signs up saying this is private property. It's privately owned, but it's for public use, and we spend a lot of time doing it, and not for people driving down or on our property or whatever, but for people to enjoy it, and we're doing it all volunteers, and I think we have a right to get our own property back. That's all I'm saying. My
Oh.
speech.
Yep, Councilor Ward.
Just so everybody knows, not next week, the following week, I'm sit down and CF Meridian out of Saskatoon and, or, Huddersfield. I will be going to Saskatoon on the 20th, to start mediation. So I'll be in court, that is the preliminary, hoping to meet some common ground. If we don't, we will have to find what we'll do, and I'm not looking forward to it, but unfortunately it is a process that we have to go through. On a personal note, we had a 3-day jamboree here, with Hanna Center, and it was another success story. We had a lot of positive feedback, lots of people, mentioned to Peggy as their meeting, it was probably one of the best jamborees we've ever been to. I've had the opportunity to travel around over the last couple of months to some of the jamborees, and Hanna really does for their jamboree. I was worried that our mayor was kind of funny actually, because I asked a gentleman from outside of Edmonton to MC, and of course it was kind of funny that in the absence of the mayor, the deputy mayor would have to speak. And so the fact that has to be said, and
Dual hats.
although I did speak, the mayor's speech, I said, I didn't know if it was all politically correct, but I did speak when I got it down. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that, and I was sorry you were unable to attend.
Well, I got caught up in a hot shot, and then where I was supposed to be picking up the stuff, the guy wasn't there, and I'm looking at the clock going, I'm not gonna make this, and I'm trying, and just nothing's falling into place, and yeah.
Well, and our timelines were very, very tight.
Yep.
So, it didn't work out, but thank you. I presented your speech and it was, well taken, and I thank you that you even, we're gonna consider the time, because I know you're busy now, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's all I have to say.
Councilor Olson,
I have nothing to add, your worship.
how's your golf course shed, the new one? Did they get the floors poured and
Yep,
everything?
oh yeah, yep, it's done, heated, everything.
Good.
100%.
Excellent. It's been busy, golf course?
Yeah, the cool start and a really hot in the middle, slowed down a little bit, but things certainly picked up. And lots of different groups out there, and lots of kids, like 12 to 15-year-olds. Every day you're seeing a dozen of them out there. It's all different ones, which is a nice change.
And didn't your tournament this weekend, isn't that the biggest, like it was well attended?
Battle of Alberta, I wasn't around, that's.
Like they had 120 or something people.
Yeah.
It's one of the bigger tournaments.
Yeah.
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 Cool, Councilor Murphy,
Nothing.
nothing to add, Councilor Farrell?
Oh, just add to our coming up events is our fall fair is next week. And everything in parade this next Friday. We got a route. We discussed for turning that provincial building and coming straight across to the seniors home and their manners and then finishing off
So you're
the.
gonna turn down, is that third or fourth?
Yeah,
Which side
On
of
the
the?
north side,
which
provincial
building,
or
north
south
side or
side?
South side,
south side.
Third.
so turn down
Third.
third.
That's the information
Yeah.
that we're
Okay,
putting
yeah,
out
that
on
goes
it.
straight down to
Yeah.
Cruiser Brothers T intersection.
Yeah.
Up on there.
That should work good.
Yeah, we've already got a group of people already entered and stuff, so.
I got nothing, just plug away, plug away. It's, the car show is, now going to be out at the museum.
I think it's the same weekend.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Mr. Hanford has, tried to seek out help and stuff, and the museum group stepped forward. And, I've been voluntold that, I'll be helping out there, and I said to him the same as always, I said, if I can be there, I will be there. And he said, well, just drop in and we have something for everyone to do, so, that's exciting. I was up in Stettler at their car show, handed out some cards. As advertising, and it sounds like we have probably 6 or 8 vehicles that were at the Stettler show coming to the Hanna show, so it's kind of funny because I don't know how the car deal works, but they communicate amongst themselves and, oh, I'll tell so and so, yeah, so looking forward to that, and again, a busy weekend in town. And other than that,
This, just so people are aware too, this weekend is the Cruisers show out at the airport.
drag
So
race.
Drag races are out at the airport this weekend, and then it's the fall fair. Cruisers.
No,
car
no,
show.
no cruisers,
I think public.
no,
Sorry,
that
when I go use
no
the
longer part of
cruisers,
it,
But they'll be in their parade?
separate.
Yeah.
The car show
Oh, okay.
and the
Drag races.
drag races are two totally separate identities now.
The drive-in and,
Drive-in is next, not
Yeah.
this weekend, the next year. So we have a couple busy
Yeah,
weekends.
Council Bowden?
I'm sorry, can I also interject, the chamber golf tournament is August 20th.
Yeah.
As well, anybody is interested in that as well.
So the car show, the fact that it's out there, if the downtown is done, will it bring it back down to the downtown core then?
That would be my hope. I'm not 100% sure if that's what their intentions are. I
'Cause
mean,
I think that was a huge success
yeah,
last
but the
year.
problem is nobody wanted to step up and do it.
Yeah.
And so the museum group stepped up, and so if they do wish to bring it downtown, that'll be up to them, so. Yeah, it's very disheartening because I know Neil had reached out to numerous people to try and get support, and finally found Shelby and her crew, and they willingly took it on, so. I agree, Council Warwick, it was an awesome thing downtown, but if nobody's gonna help, then.
Well, and you know, because we had visitors in town that didn't know, and they came into town and they participated in
Yeah.
it, and they were.
Well, that's what
thrilled.
happened to me with the Stettler car show.
Yeah,
I
you
didn't
showed
have any
up and-
clue that it was on. And we went up to visit family and stumbled onto it. So yeah, that'll be at the discretion of the museum group. So other than that, thank you, everybody. And I will tell you that we had a observer online. Matthew was following us today.
What was it?
Yes.
Good. Here, the new CAO.
So we will adjourn at whatever time it is.